All right, another Friday and another opportunity to preview a division in the NFL for the 2026 season. Partnering here with Proline TV and Las Vegas handicappers Andy Iskoe and Jim Feist. Andy Iskoe will be with us shortly. Jim Feist is back after being away, I think, for 2 weeks. How's it going, Jim?
I don't know. Was it 2 weeks? It might have been.
I'm not sure. So.
It was a positive time off. I got some good health news, and I'm ready to go for another football season.
Yeah, actually, it was 1 week.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 2.
You were off on the the fact that I have to do the show alone with Andy, it feels like 2 weeks to me.
We won't let Andy hear that comment.
No, but anyway, Andy will be with us shortly. We did the NFC NFC North last week, which could be considered the toughest division in the NFL. Before we move on, since we are going to talk about the AFC West, I know that you talked a little bit about your North feelings in the NFC before you did go away a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know whether or not I don't think we have any official picks from you, though.
We're talking about the Lions and Packers and stuff. Okay,
the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings. Oh my!
Well, it's still my point of reference with that division goes back a couple of weeks because I have been traveling and doing things. I focused a little bit on the West because we're supposed to talk about that today. But when it comes to I'm a little down on the Packers, not because there's anything wrong with them. It's just I look for the Lions to have a big comeback this year. The question now is, are the Bears going to continue with this upward scale that they came into last year with the offensive coordinator and the new quarterback? And then, of course, we have the tremendous roster that you have with the Vikings with a quarterback issue. I never was a high on the draft pick with McCarthy. And now the question, can you do something with Murray and turn that around? They certainly have the talent on that team to do a lot of damage. And if they can put it together at quarterback, they have a good head coach. They've got a lot of tools. This is a very tough conference. There's no question about these four teams. Given a slight break, even a half a break, any of these teams can win this. I mean, it's really difficult.
You know what I might do is I might just go ahead and take the Bears and the Vikings to win the division, and all I need is one of them to win the division because they're 3 and 5 to 1.
And then what do you have? What happens if the Lions win it?
Well, then I lose. Then I lose big. Anyway, don't forget, even though we're finalizing our division previews this week, we are not going to have some sort of, okay, now that we finalized everything, let's make our final predictions, because those final predictions are not going to come for over another month. This is just an opportunity for us starting 8 weeks ago to take a look at all these divisions because, hey, a lot's changed since the last time we spoke about the NFC South to begin these previews 7 weeks ago. And a lot more will change with training camp coming up. Matter of fact, Carolina and Arizona will start things off in a few days because they're going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game. So they get a jump start on training camp. And then everybody else joins about a week later. So this is when we find out about injuries. We find out about, who's doing what in camp, who's making moves, what's the positive, negative stories. And so a lot could happen between now and the time we make our final predictions in either late August or early September, most likely early September. Okay, so let's, you're looking at this AFC West, Jim, and the Raiders, of course, are basically considered the outlier right now at 20 to 1. It's a huge number. But the Chiefs and the Broncos are only separated on DraftKings, only separated by 65 or 0.65 points. That tells you basically it's anybody's game.
Well, don't forget the Chargers.
Well, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos are all separated by just 0.65.
Those three teams are all valid contenders. The big issue I have is we really don't know Mahomes' condition coming off a very serious injury. They had other issues as well last year, and things sort of fell apart for them. Denver won the division. The Chargers didn't look good all year. I mean, they had some moments, but even under Jim Harbaugh, the loss of their offensive line was very devastating for them. But they're back. They got some new players on the offensive line. They've made a lot of changes. Harbaugh's a great coach. You're talking about the coaches in this league. I mean, God, I mean, you have really good coaches. You got some really good quarterbacks. Denver wins the division. I don't know why they're not favored to win the division again. I think they were upgrading the Chiefs based on what they were a few years ago instead of what they are, like most recently in last year's games. But obviously, Mahomes comes back. If he's half healthy or 3/4 healthy, they're going to probably go more to a running game to try to take some of the weight off the offensive line and some of the mobility necessary out of Mahomes from his past. I don't know that you can do that, but that's the hope. I mean, they do have great coaching, as does the Broncos. Do the Chargers, the Raiders. I'm not even going to talk about because they were so bad last year. I don't know how far up they can go, but I don't think. I mean, they're not going to contend for this division, but they might make some noise here or there. But I personally think Denver should be the favorite again. I mean, they did it last year. There's a lot of questions here with the Chargers. I mean, Herbert has never produced to the degree everybody thought he should. But, honestly, in his defense, he had some terrible coaching when he first came into the league. And last year he had some bad breaks with the offensive line injuries. So you have to get over the injury issues the Chiefs and the Chargers had last year. But the Broncos, they got there. They went a long way. And I personally favor the Broncos to win. I'm not going to bet them at plus 225. I don't think there's enough value. But, you don't make – just because you think they're going to win doesn't mean it's a good bet.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. And keep in mind, the Chiefs actually were a pretty healthy team last year. They got banged up really in December. And I think that's, so I definitely don't want to let them off the hook. And how about this too? The Chiefs were 12-0 in one-score games in 2024. 12-0.
Right.
Last year they were 1-9. It's a dramatic change.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and now maybe that's good for the Chiefs this year because you would expect them to go back to the mean, and that'll add a few extra games. So we'll get into everything. Andy Isco is joining us. So Andy, I guess you've got some things figured out at least for now.
Operator error.
Okay.
I should have realized what it was.
Taking the blame.
All right. It was pretty simple, and I figured it out.
Okay.
Good to see you again, Andy.
Jim, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's doing well.
I'm doing a lot better. I got some good news in California, and I'm ready to go.
You mean aside from winning the lottery?
I don't remember doing that, but I do have a bad memory.
That's okay. It's more important the good news you got.
Thank you.
No, it was a situation with I run two computers off of one screen, and I have to switch back and forth, and so that had part to do with it. But anyway, we're there. I heard you're talking. I guess Kansas City was the first team you're talking about?
No, we're going to talk about Denver. We were just rummaging around the league at the division.
Yeah. I was kind of saying that Denver won it last year. I think you still have injury issues and player issues with the Chargers and the Chiefs that were there last year, and we have to prove that they've solved those issues, namely the Chargers' offensive line problems and the Chiefs, obviously, with Mahomes and the Achilles, which is
right now Mahomes is on target. I think they came through and said to play in week 1. But the other thing that I always point out about the Chiefs this year, because I also believe it's going to be, I wouldn't say regression back to the mean. It's probably progression back to the mean, because they went from those double-digit seasons of wins to that horrible record last year. And as Greg pointed out, the great record they had 2 years ago in 2024 of winning those close games was one of the reasons I didn't like them last year to go over the total that I normally do. But the other thing that they benefit from is all those extra playoff games that they've been playing for 7 or 8 years. They didn't play last year, so they're coming into this season with the most rest that they've had in probably close to a decade, because they didn't have to play 2, 3, 4 extra games. And that adds up, 2, 3, 4, 3 extra games in a playoff season is a fifth of basically a fifth to a sixth of a full season, in back-to-back weeks. So I think that's one of the other factors that works in Kansas City's favor, which may or may not be. And I don't have the results from last year, but I think that certainly Denver had success against the Chiefs last year.
All right, well, let's get started. And just to let everybody know, as far as the AFC West, their schedule opponent divisions are the AFC East and the NFC West. So they get one of the toughest divisions in the league with Seattle, San Francisco, and the Rams. They also get Buffalo and New England in the AFC East. Meanwhile, the outlier teams, let's go through them one by one.
By the way, just to put that in proper perspective, that means all 4 teams play, 5 of the 8 common opponents for the 2 divisions that were in the playoffs last year with double-digit wins.
And taking a look at Denver's 3 outlier teams, they, of course, with a first-place schedule, so they get Jacksonville at home, Carolina on the road, and Pittsburgh on the road. So those are the 3 outliers for the Broncos. These are the odds that we have here.
By the way, let me just point out, as you're talking there, that's not a bad first-place schedule when you consider Jacksonville came out of nowhere last year to take over the division or win the division with 13 wins against a very good Houston team that's probably better than Jacksonville overall. They don't have to play them. No. They don't have to play the Ravens, who had been, the best team in that AFC North.
Or Cincinnati.
They get Pittsburgh, right? And then who's the other one you said? Carolina.
Carolina.
Basically the NFC South. You were very well grouped last year. So that is not a bad first place schedule for them to have to play.
And also, if you think about it too, even though, we'll get into their schedule, we can actually pop it up here. By the way, the win total line is 9.5 minus 110, which seems very low for a team that won their division last year and just with everybody basically back. I mean, the entire 22 starters, I think 21 are back. And the one player that's not is John Franklin Myers on defense. And the one new player just happens to be the big deal they made for Jalen Waddle at wide receiver. So with all that good happening, they're still only at 9.5. And a lot of it, I think, does have to do with the schedule.
By the way, let me also point out along those same lines, Denver 10-7 the year before. So they were a playoff team for the last 2 years under Peyton.
Yep. So not getting respect, sort of like what we talked about with Chicago, 2 teams that had big wins, crazy games, down to the wire, figuring out ways to win in all sorts of crazy fashion, and then having a freaky way to win their division, make the playoffs. Now you get a first place schedule, and if it just seems that they're just not getting respected because of that. So
I think, by the way, another thing to keep in mind, and again, it goes back to Kansas City. We don't expect Kansas City to be as bad a team record-wise as they were last year, and that's 2 games that they play against the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Chiefs.
Well, this is a very tough way to start the season. So they are going to face a gauntlet in their first 6 games of the season. They got to play the Chiefs to open things up on the road on Monday night. Then they got to play host to Jacksonville and the Rams. Then they go to San Francisco and the Chargers. And then they're home to the defending champs.
And that's basically opening the season. Again, throw out Kansas City's record last year. That's opening the season against 6 playoff quality teams, 5 of whom made the playoffs last year, and the Chiefs. That's a tough opening schedule.
I'll tell you what, if they don't have a lot of injuries during that 5-game set or 6-game set right there, and they start out a few losses that you wouldn't expect, that might be a great position to start riding them. They got a good coach. They got a good nucleus. Waddle's going to open up the field a little bit, not necessarily deep throws, but run after catch type stuff. He's very quick and very good receiver. That's different. Last year they were a possession ball, receiving team. The defense is good. I mean, if they started out like 3-3,
yep,
against that group, and that I think 3-3 against that group is good. You might catch fire with them. They do have a bye week after they play. I think Arizona, Kansas City, Carolina. That bye week comes in there, and then they start Vegas, Pittsburgh, Miami. And is that the New York Jets?
Yeah, they get Vegas twice,
my
Jets
God,
and Miami in a 5-week span.
And then the Jets in Vegas.
Keep in mind that the Kansas City and Carolina games, again, you're talking about 2 playoff teams, one of which made it with Carolina. So you've got, of the first 9 games, 8 of them are against quality opposition, with the 1 game at Arizona, the one real step down in class. If you like Denver to win the division, maybe you wait and you see what the odds are after that 3-3 start, for example.
Absolutely. Andy, that's perfect thinking. Absolutely perfect thinking.
And
now, look, they could start 5-1, but that schedule doesn't suggest it.
Well, if
they start 5-1, you bow to
5-1 with the next 7 that they have,
then they're going to win a lot of games. Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind taking a gamble that they start perhaps 3-3 and find themselves after that 3-3 start behind Kansas City and the Chargers in the division, and then, because of that defense that has been so strong, and you have to believe the offense will be certainly at least average and not slightly above average, maybe that's the time that you can get in if they go.
I'd like to interject a question here. The Chiefs have had a great run. We know who they are. We know Andy Reid, Spagnuolo, we know Mahomes, Kelsey, all that. But they're an aging team. They have a lot of people on that team that are not fresh puppies. They have added a couple of guys, there's no question, and nobody knows that better than Greg. He has all that record right in front of him. But why do we feel that there won't be a negative regression from the Chiefs after what they've gone through the last few years?
You mean a continued like an 8-9 season rather than a bounce back to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Why that might not happen?
Maybe a 9-8 would even be optimistic.
The reason I said earlier was because of all the playoff games that they didn't have to, that they had played in a row season after season, that they didn't have to play any playoff games last year. So their bodies have like effectively an extra month to heal that the 18 teams that don't make the playoffs don't have. So that might be it. But yes, age is a factor. Because remember, Mahomes, he played 15 games last year, I think, sat out the game after the injury, and then the final game of the season, I believe, with the injury. So, Mahomes has had a lot of football, but they've still got a lot of potential on that team to have a decent, a decent offense. I like getting Walker over from Seattle to help this team. So I think when you take a look, and remember, Kansas City now plays a 3rd place schedule as opposed to their usual 1st place schedule or even 2nd place schedule. So the schedule, I think, is a little bit lighter than that, playing by Denver and the Chargers.
When we're looking at positive aggression or regression from the Chargers and staying even with the Broncos, I don't know that you can look very optimistically at more than 9 wins.
You're talking about the Chiefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm throwing the Raiders out. I'm just figuring everybody's going to beat the Raiders like a drum, but we don't know that for sure. I mean, but most likely they're going to beat them like a drum. But the 2 best teams look to be the Chargers and the Broncos, with the Chiefs 3rd, in my opinion.
I could certainly see that. You see, the unknown factor is, will Mahomes return early? I say game one, but let's say in the first 2 or 3 games. And then how effective will he be? And will that effectiveness have more to do with the supporting cast, or maybe a slower than expected bounce back by Mahomes? So yeah, there are a lot of if they play the kind. And remember, you've had an off season for Andy Reid. He brings back Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. You've got Spagnuolo, who has a long history of making adjustments with defensive players, and they did lose a couple of key guys in that the back end of the defense during the offseason, but they've had, brought some players in to help that. So unless you think, and I guess it's possible, but Mahomes is the one factor that keeps me from feeling there's going to be a current regression. But those, Jim, are very valid questions, which makes it very, very difficult. As much as I like Kansas City to bounce back, yeah, they could go 10-7, which is a nice improvement from last year when they were 6-11. But 10-7, marginal playoff team, or certainly a wild card, not a division winner. And yes, 10-7, likely, not necessarily, definitely, or probably, but certainly, possibly, could be third place in the division again this year.
All right, let's go through these teams. Yeah. We've got to go one by one. So Chargers are going to end Denver's going to end their schedule, by the way, with Buffalo, New England, and the Chargers. Yeah. So it's also going to get a little bit tough later on. Let's move on to their depth chart.
They've got 5 straight winnable games: at Pittsburgh, home to Miami, at the Jets, at Vegas. That's 4 straight winnable games, all after the bye. They have to win those 4 to win the division.
I agree with that.
Shot at winning division.
All right, let's take a look at the depth chart for the Denver Broncos. And again, as you can see here, there's only one player. That's Jalen Waddle. Matter of fact, if you take a look at the 2 deep on offense, there's only 2 players, a rookie and the Jalen Waddle addition, that will be new to the team's offense in the entire 2 deep. They signed over 17 of their own players in the offseason.
Are you talking defense or offense as well?
Offense first off. If you're looking at the depth chart.
Don't they have the new running back?
Yeah, they do.
I said 2 deep.
Oh, 2 deep. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then you take a look at the defense 2 deep, and you only see 1 new player, and that is a rookie in the 3rd round. So out of all of those players, and let's just say it's somewhere along the lines of 45 players, there's only, if this depth chart holds up the way it is, 42 of the 45 are back from last year's team.
Now, is that, in your opinion, Greg, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Did they miss opportunities, or did they feel real good about what they have?
I think again, they re-signed 17 of their own. Yeah. So they wanted, this was their plan all along. And they didn't want to overpay for John Franklin Myers.
They were 14-3 in the regular season, and that team is basically entirely back, most of the contributors.
Yeah, and we don't even need Denver to be. Yeah, exactly. And we're only talking about a 10-win season. We're not talking about winning 14 games. So it's just strange to me, and it's strange to all of us. But, hey, we got to take advantage of it. And now, look, we don't know about Bo Nix. He's supposed to be fine. He's definitely a lot further along in better health than Patrick Mahomes, but he also was coming off an injury. The one thing they did not really do is improve that running game. They made a pickup with Jonah Coleman in round 4, so that's an improvement. But J.K. Dobbins has got to stay healthy. I mean, this guy just keeps getting hurt every year. He's never available at the end of the season when you need him. So that's something that you got to keep an eye on. But just imagine how much better this offense is going to be when everybody's back. They have a good offensive line, and they have now Jalen Waddle. Because that means that you are now not going to be able to just zero in on Cortland Sutton anymore. Because Waddle is probably going to get the attention of the number 1 corner now.
By the way,
Sutton will get number 2 corner work.
Let's put this also in perspective. You mentioned that the divisions that they face this year, the AFC, last year they faced the AFC South and the NFC East, which were not so overly strong divisions. They were strong at the top with the Jacksonville and Houston, but not so much in the NFC, where you had big drop off after after Philadelphia, and they replaced that. What did we say, Greg, with the
NFC West and the AFC East.
Yeah, so again, 5 out of those 8 are playoff teams versus very few of the ones from last year, where you had just Philadelphia from the NFC East, and in the what was it, the AFC South, Jacksonville and Houston. So we're last year.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. It's got to be the schedule. It has to be that the reason that they're dissing Chicago and Denver.
Yeah,
because they were not supposed to win divisions. Now they do. Now they get the first place schedule, and everybody's making it a big deal. I think they're overreacting a little bit.
I agree. On both of those teams. And the thing again with Denver, as I mentioned, they were a 10-7 team and went to the playoffs the year before. So I don't understand. So okay, yeah, the schedule's a little bit difficult, but hey, they won 14 games against the beneficial schedule. They still won 10 games the year before, the first year. I think that was the first year of the new coaching regime.
Let's not forget that this is the team. This is the team that very likely would have been in the Super Bowl had not they lost their quarterback.
That's right.
I mean, I don't see how we're downgrading this team like this.
And the good thing too is that the 9.5 is basically even.
Yeah.
I gotta love the over in this.
Yeah. What's the price on that, Greg?
The 9.5 is only minus 110, and if you want to go over 10.5, which I don't have a problem with, it's plus 164.
I have a little bit of a stretch on that one.
I would have to go over 9.5, over 10.5, over 11.5.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with the over 9.5. The 10.5 is a stretch only because of those games that they have to play against so many tough teams. If you go over 11.5, that's 12-5. Well, those 5 losses could come early in the season, or they could come late, which is even more critical when you play an over, because their last 3 games, home to Buffalo, at New England, home to the Chargers, all 3 of those games likely have playoff implications for all 3 opponents and Denver itself.
Okay. Well, you're right, Andy. The only thing I could say positive about that is I'm getting 3-1. But
yeah, that's the price. Yes,
that may not be high enough, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah,
I agree with you, though.
That's why it's called gambling.
Your point is well taken.
Yeah. Okay, so now we move into the Kansas City Chiefs next, and we've already talked a little bit about them. This is their schedule, and again, they're opening up with Denver. And
what's their season total? Did we talk about that?
Their season total is.
I thought I saw 10.5.
Let's bring that back in. All right. Yep. They're at 10.5 at plus 115.
So they got a higher season total than Denver does.
Yes. And the Chargers.
That makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm sorry.
And they have a much easier schedule early on. They will be playing Miami and Las Vegas before their early bye.
I'm sorry. What was the plus price on that?
Well, that second game against the Colts isn't too difficult either.
115.
If the Colts can't figure out their
plus 15.
115. Yeah.
115. Okay.
What was that, Jim?
Well, the Colts may not be all that tough either.
That's
unless
true.
you can figure out who's going to play quarterback.
And it's a home game.
Yeah.
They got back-to-back primetime games. So, yeah, you're right. We have no idea if Daniel Jones is going to be available. I mean, I guess if you're playing the Colts, you'd rather play them at the end of the season to see if Jones can make it that far. So if he does play week 1, he has a pretty good chance of playing week 2.
What'd you say the record was last year for Kansas City in those one-score games after, what'd you say, 12-0 the year before?
1-9.
1-9.
12-0 to 1-9.
I have to believe that with the talent that they have and the adjustments that they've made and the bringing in of the running back, that of those 9 one-score losses, 4 or 5 of those would end up being wins, which gets you at 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It's that you would have to think it would go back to the average, the league average, which is about 50%.
We talk a lot about Mahomes, but about the rest of the team. They've had wide receiver issues. They've had left tackle issues on offense. I mean, the running
Kelsey's a year older too.
We got to talk about more than Mahomes here.
Yeah, the offensive line, there's still questions. There's a big question, like you said, right tackle, left guard. Those are a couple of issues. The whole Rashee Rice thing is still hanging over them. We'll find out more. It'll become more of a story once camp opens up. But the problem with them the last several seasons, and we've seen the decline with their deep passing game, and they just haven't been able to replace Tyreek Hill. So they've been a completely different offense ever since Tyreek Hill left.
I like the fact that the enemy's coming back to run the offense.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good thing because of the addition of Kenneth Walker. Yeah, because he's going to want to run the football more. That's what they did. They were able to run the football more.
Which means you're going to protect Mahomes.
Exactly.
You're not passing as much.
And Kenneth Walker.
So what you're going to look at is you've got to have an offensive line that can not only protect when they have to,
but open
and
the
they have to be there's difference between a passing offensive line and a running deep offensive line. Are they good enough to open holes? Can Walker run behind this line? Are they quality at that level? Because every offensive line is not the same, and a lot of coaches will design their game or offensive game around what the talents of the offensive line are. Some do not do that and they fail. But if you design it around what your offensive line is good at doing, then the question is, are they a running team? Because they have not been a running team for a long time.
It depends on how well Mahomes' mobility returns. I think that has a lot to do with it as well as being able to escape pressure and make things happen, which is such a key part of their offense over the years.
And then on defense, this is where they made a lot of movement because they lost some really key players on the defensive side of the ball. They lost at linebacker, they lost Chenal. In the defensive backfield, they lost 3 key players. Watson, their corner, McDuffie, they traded the nickel, and Brian Cook, one of the better safeties in the league. So they just couldn't afford them. So they had to let them go. They had to make the trade with McDuffie because they couldn't afford him, and so they used that pick, that trade, and go and get that pick early. They moved up to get the number 1 corner in the draft, Mansour Delane. So they need him to step up immediately and be like one of the top young corners in the league. That people most likely think that that's his direction.
I want to get back to Jim's point for a moment on the offensive line, because I'm reading this quote here in one of the preseason publications. There are no more excuses along the offensive line where the Chiefs have invested draft capital in first rounders Joshua Simmons and second rounder Creed Humphrey and Kingsley Sumatataya. There's $75.76 million in salary cap investment, ranks number 1 in the league, and the enemy returning is going to also help along those lines. So I think that it's a valid question, Jim, and I think what I just read there seems to answer that. The opinion is that they've strengthened that offensive line significantly. Now it's a question for what the quarterback, running back, and receivers can do.
Well, you got to keep in mind, this is the same offensive line from last year.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
But they added to it.
No. There's no adding to it. It's the same guys. They might have given
a
contract.
Choices? Draft choices.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking, well, no, last year they added Simmons.
Yeah.
So he should be better. Look, this is not a bad offensive line. They again, as you mentioned, they got Simmons, they got Humphrey, and they got Trey Smith. Those are 3 players that are supposed to be solid along their position groups. It's just a question at left guard. The jury is still out on their 2024 second-round pick. And Jalen Moore is a little overrated. They gave him a lot of money. A lot of people looked at it as more of, well, they were giving it to him. He was going to be the top swing tackle in the NFL. And now he's starting. But he's at right tackle, so I don't think that's a big deal. But they got to stay healthy. Because if any of those guys go down, they don't have a whole lot on the bench that makes you feel like, okay, like, in other words, if they lose one of their top linemen, then all of a sudden you've got some issues. But yeah, I don't think it's as bad as some of these other offensive lines we've talked about already the last few weeks.
The overall, trend tracklers, and I appreciate the comments. He's saying Chiefs have reached the Super Bowl 5 of the last 7 seasons. I'm looking at that as a negative to the Chiefs because you're looking for a regression. Things start changing, and other teams are catching up, and the AFC is getting stronger. And I mean, little by little are getting stronger. This division in particular is very strong. I don't think the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're winning this division. I don't think they're winning the AFC. That's just my opinion.
The only thoughts that I'll counter with that is that when you take a look at the quarterbacks, where do you put Mahomes compared, for example, to Bo Nix, who we really don't know as far as postseason goes, and Justin Herbert, who has not been effective. A lot of it had to do with offensive liners, but he's what, 0 for 3, 0 for 4, or maybe 1 for 4 in the postseason?
Well, nobody's had worse. Herbert, his first couple seasons with Staley, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, that's right.
I got to throw them out. It's bad, but I would like Herbert and Nix with solid Achilles over Mahomes with a questionable Achilles at this point.
Well, I know we'll get to it, and I do have the Chargers winning the division.
And then the other addition,
I can't argue with that because I have them second. So
the other addition,
you have them behind Denver.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
The other addition you got to keep an eye on is the veteran L'Jarius Sneed, who broke out during the Chiefs' last Super Bowl win. And then it was a contract situation. He left, went to Tennessee, and had injuries and was nothing like the dominant corner he was when he was with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Now he's back. And the question is he just not the same player? The injuries have just made him, a lot less a quality player.
Who was his defensive coordinator when he went away?
Same player. What do you mean, in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh,
defensive coordinator compared to Spagnuolo.
Yeah, they're all fired.
Yeah.
They're all no good. The Tennessee Titans, they stink.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I'm saying that with Spagnuolo there, we may see a return to form.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But again, that's the difference. That's the question. Is it going to be that he's the same guy that he was in Tennessee based on injuries and he's just lost something, or comes back to Kansas City and he becomes the guy he was when he was there? And if he does, you match him with Delane, the first-round draft pick.
How old is he?
He's not old. He's probably in his mid-20s, 27, 28, I guess.
I would tend
29.
to think we get to see his performance that we saw with Kansas City, because I think he is the same players. Now, we don't know the impact of the injuries, but I think he gets better coaching. And I think also playing with Kansas City versus playing with Tennessee. With Tennessee, you're playing with a team that didn't have any offense, so put more pressure on the defense. That's not the case here in Kansas City, assuming the offense is at least average in line with what we've seen out of Kansas City.
Well, let's just put it this way. If you're going to predict Kansas City to have a big year, then you're going to predict that.
Yeah.
You're going to predict that Sneed is going to come in and pick up where he left off when he was there 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden their secondary group looks a lot better, because there's a lot of questions on that secondary group right now. And they really do need somebody to step up.
Probably the major question, second only to Mahomes and his ability to recover and perform at an accustomed level. Secondary is probably the second biggest question.
4 of their top draft picks went on defense, including Delane. They also used a late first rounder on Peter Woods, finally getting somebody young enough to match up with Chris Jones, who's starting to get a little older now. They also added a second-round pass rusher and a 4th-round corner. The problem is they just don't have a lot of pass rush depth.
Yep.
This has been an issue for them the last few years. The last time they had a really good pass rush a few years ago, and it just hasn't been the same. So that's something that I don't know whether or not it's going to get any better. So they're going to need some help from the rookie, as well as maybe some other players to step up, like their 2023 first-round draft pick, who everybody's looking at as a really big season for him. They need him to step up. He hasn't done it yet.
One of my overall thoughts about the Chiefs, and I always talk very often about strength of organization, culture, etc. I trust this coaching staff. I trust this organization, and if they, if I trust in their ability to evaluate talent. Nobody can predict injuries, but I trust in Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and Eric Bieniemy to correct any problems that may surface. Of course, the schedule will be a little bit challenging, but anytime you're playing a lot of teams that made the playoffs last year, regardless of whether it's a first, second, or third place schedule, you're still facing a lot of good football teams. And as I mentioned before, the sequence of when you play them, like that Denver sequence. I don't know what the league had against Denver with all those tough schedules. You could have taken those 4 games at the end of the season with, what was it, Pittsburgh, Vegas, the Jets, and one of the other ones, maybe it was Vegas the second time, and spread them out a little bit for the Denver Broncos.
Kansas City's 3 outlier teams on the schedule: at Miami, at Atlanta, and at Cincinnati. So not bad. That's what you get with a third
I'll look
place
forward
schedule.
to that Cincinnati game.
There's a lot of positive thoughts out there about Cincinnati this year.
Yes.
And a lot of question marks, positive and negative, about Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, Andy, what you just said, when I look at a team, I look top down. Who's the owner? What their pedigree is as an owner, hands off, hands on. Do they let the football people make the decisions? And then the coaching staff, offensive.
You don't hear much about the Kansas City owner. I'll bet half the people who follow football couldn't name the owner. Even though he's appeared on the podium for Super Bowls the last so often.
I think I think they were in the first Super Bowl, weren't they? Even before it was a Super Bowl.
His father, Lamar Hunt Sr.
That's right. I think the coaching staffs on 3 of these teams are excellent. And I don't know yet about the Raiders. I'm not going to even get into them, but that has to be yet to be seen. But these other coaches are pretty damn good. Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton. I mean, this is some good stuff. I mean, this is a tough division. I don't see this. I don't think the Chiefs are going to have an easy time with those teams.
By the way, we talked about Sean Payton, and I don't know if you heard a couple of weeks ago, there was some talk that I think at one point Sean Payton was going to have Belichick coach the Broncos for a couple of weeks so Belichick could get the coaching record for most wins. And I think Greg's first thought would be, hopefully if he was going to do it, Belichick would have coached weeks 1 and 2, given Sean Payton's record in the first 2 games of the season.
Okay.
I don't know this.
Which has not been very good even dating back to his New Orleans days.
Well, I don't know anything about Belichick when he's doing these days. I know he's in college.
He's coaching North Carolina.
Great comment, Andy.
Okay, next up is the Las Vegas Raiders and your hometown team. And there is definitely, at least on the outside looking in, there's finally some the fan base knows that they could see some progress is happening. They seem to have hired a good general manager. They seem to have hired a good head coach. Everything that happened last year was just a disaster, and they've turned the corner. And I think what was interesting too is when I was watching an interview with Tom Brady, when he talked about how the Raiders, his organization, ranked number 1 in the NFL in least amount of injuries in the NFL last year. And that's
troubling.
And he was bringing that up because of the fact that he was in a situation early in his career in New England when everything changed for him health-wise, when he finally started to meet the right person who started to put together a really good
TB12.
New age health
conditioning, dietary, things
and
like
it really
that.
worked out for him. And he's obviously brought that to the Raiders organization, and so that's something to keep an eye on. If as they rebuild, if they can remain a very healthy team over the years, that'll give them a leg up. But I just brought that up because it shows you that they've got some much smarter people now that are running the organization. They had a very good draft, not just because they drafted Fernando Mendoza number 1 overall, but the draft was good from top to bottom. And so they've got a lot of good young players now on board. Very smart decision in Kirk Cousins. So Mendoza doesn't have to be thrown out there with a rebuilding team in his first game overall. So Cousins, I'm sure, will give way to Mendoza at some point during the season. And they've got some, talented players on offense that you could build around. You got your hopeful franchise quarterback. You have your franchise running back. You have your franchise tight end. and hopefully you have a franchise center. So now
Yeah.
you just have to find a few more pieces on defense. You also, of course, still have Max Crosby. You got to hope he stays healthy. So there's a lot now to like compared to how miserable the team was last year.
Don't forget,
Things are headed in the right
don't
direction.
forget they got a tight end in Brock Bowers who's incredible.
Greg, did you say that the Raiders had like the least number of like players missing time due to injury?
Yeah, there was player. I forget the exact term what was, but yeah, basically something like that. They ranked.
And I mentioned that that's troubling. And the reason I say that now, of course, it's not as much troubling because they got a new regime in there, but it's troubling because if you go back and you take a look at the teams that are fortunate like that to be near the bottom in terms of time lost to injury, usually going to be teams that are in battling for the playoffs, because that's one of the things that they've been able to avoid is the injury issues. So it's troubling that despite not having all those injuries, they had as poor a performance as they did last year. So hopefully what Brady is bringing in with the conditioning and the nutrition and all that is a positive sign. My opinion, and I think I said it when we did Tennessee, is I look at the Raiders and I look at the Titans very similarly. I think both teams will be improved, but it may not be evidenced in the win-loss record. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if both of those teams, Tennessee and Vegas, struggle early in the season because of the competition they face. But I expect them to be more competitive in a lot of those games than they were last year. And so I think from a betting standpoint, there may be value in playing the Raiders plus the points in the second half of the season. Same thing with the Titans, because I think those are two teams in very similar situations, especially when you take a look at quarterbacks like Cam Ward and Mendoza.
The win total is you can go either way. You've got over 6.5 plus 125, or over 5.5 minus 146. So that's pretty high actually. Plus over 6.5 plus 125. I'm not expecting a 7-win season in that division.
No,
but I definitely expect them to be a better team. This is the schedule as you see here. They get the last place schedule. So they do get to open up with Miami and New Orleans, but look, they got Chargers and the Chiefs and the Patriots and the Bills and the Rams.
It's not easy. It's not that
Seattle,
easy.
San
they're
Francisco,
winnable games.
Denver.
Yeah, their winnable games are Miami. I'll say at the Jets. I will say against Tennessee and Arizona at the end of the season.
How about Cleveland?
Oh, did I mention Cleveland in there? No, I didn't mention it in there. Yeah, Cleveland. Yeah. So those are the 5 games. I don't think they'll be favored in those games, but I think those are winnable games. And one thing keeping in mind, again, when you take a look at like the Vegas against Arizona, both of those teams are not expected to do much, but when they take a look at their schedule, those are games that each of those teams think they should or could win. So as much as we talk about, or as much as I talk about, yeah, it's a winnable game for the Raiders to beat Tennessee at home late in the year. Tennessee's thinking the same thing. That's one of the games that we should win, even if it's on the road at the Raiders. So, the rest of those games, for the Raiders to go over their season total, whether you play at 5.5 or 6.5, they're going to have to likely upset a playoff team or two.
Yes, because out of those 5 games you talked about, let's say that's 6. Well, they're going to go 3-3. That means they're going to have to win 2 or 3 games.
Legitimately, I think the Raiders have a 4-win season. I don't see it better than that. Maybe 5.
Yeah.
4 is 4.
Yeah, I'm hitting 5, but I think a competitive 5. I think they're gonna be in a lot more close games, and they'll probably pull off at least 1 upset, if not 2, and it'll be a good year for them.
Look, the last 2 years, they pulled up 2 huge upsets on the road. 2 years ago, week 2 at the Ravens, and last year, week 1 at the Patriots.
Okay, so again, as far as the Raiders concerned, before we move on, just quickly taking a look at what they did on defense. They made some free agency moves. The biggest one is right there at the linebacker position with Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, and Kwity Paye.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. The biggest one was getting that trade with Baltimore rescinded.
Well, again, I guess we're going to find out. Max Crosby's got to stay healthy, and if he is, then that's going to be a big boost because no fan wanted to see Max Crosby leave Las Vegas. So it's good that he's back with the Raiders. And let's hope he can stay healthy. That would be big.
We're going to be doing shows again and looking at all these teams again down the road. But one of the biggest drop-offs I see this year is the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm glad he stayed with the Raiders.
And even though the Ravens right now are picked third to win the Super Bowl,
that's
as
ridiculous.
far as Las Vegas is concerned.
It's ridiculous.
I know. Anyway, so that secondary has 4 new players from the draft, and that's going to be real important because the secondary veterans, a lot to be desired there. So they're going to be counting on a lot of young players. The biggest swing was in round 4 when they took Jermod McCoy. Now, let's keep in mind that Jermod McCoy was going into the 2025 season as the best corner in college football and then got hurt. So he missed the entire year. And that's the reason why he did not get drafted early. There's some doctors on some of the teams that say, nah, we don't think he's going to be able to be the same guy. And there's other doctors on other teams like the Raiders that say, yeah, I think he's going to be okay. Let's draft him in round 4. So that would be a huge, huge boost to the Raiders if Jermod McCoy can turn into the player that he was supposed to be before the injury.
What was the injury?
Which I think is a good.
What was the injury that he had, Greg?
Let me see exactly what it was. Go ahead. You're going to say, Andy?
No, I was going to say I happen to agree with the thought that that he'll be the kind of player that he was expected to. Obviously the injury is the unknown, but they're not going to put him in unless he's fully cleared and ready to play because he's a very talented player.
ACL.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Raiders, and again, they got a new head coach as well. The Super Bowl offensive coordinator from the Seattle Seahawks, Clint Kubiak, will be their new head coach. Now we're going to move on to the final team, and that is.
And by the way, one thing about Kubiak, I like, and I think the players are in support of it. But he says we want to bring Mendoza around slowly. He says I want to have a veteran quarterback start the season, and that Kirk Cousins seems to be that kind of quarterback that he's talking about. How long it'll be before we see Mendoza on the field probably depends. If games are one-sided in the fourth quarter, we may see him early. On the other side, if the Raiders happen to have some of that early season success, maybe they wait until situations for Mendoza to come in there. But I like the approach that Kubiak is taking. He's not putting pressure on the quarterback. Now we'll see what happens in training camp, and it could be a situation where Mendoza is just that outstanding that you can't help but start him. But I like the fact that he's willing to be patient, Kubiak.
Yeah, I'd like to first of all thank you, Lee Latz, for the comment. I appreciate that. The one thing about when you're looking at point spreads, the Raiders are so disrespected at this point. They might be a great underdog play especially with the quality experienced quarterback and the head coach. There's a lot of positives there. So they're going to come in as dogs in every game, most likely, most games. And they might be a great underdog play going forward because you have a lot of skill at the quarterback position. They know the offensive schemes, et cetera. You got a good coach. They may not be in the picture to win a lot of games, but they may be able to cover a lot of games.
Okay.
Well, they had one of the worst offensive lines that I can recall last year, and they strengthened that in the offseason, especially with the acquisition of the center from Baltimore. So we should be able to see a much better performance out of Genti because now he's going to be able to get some holes that weren't there last year. And at the same time, that'll make Bowers that much more effective. And the receiving core, which I guess, Greg, you would say is what, maybe average to below average, should perform better.
It has talent, young talent, but not proven yet.
Right.
It's definitely their biggest issue, one of their big issues.
You got to think there's a big upgrade at quarterback. Geno was really bad last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go on to the Chargers, and they are at either over 9.5 minus 140 or over 10.5 plus 130. Seems kind of low. I don't know what you guys think about that. Their schedule, the 3 outliers the Chargers have. What's that?
10 is the right number, but they have the half numbers to look at. I say that basically says that the minus 140 and the plus 130, that perhaps 10 would be the right number between 9.5 and 10.5, but we don't have that option. We've got to go with the half number. So I would I would say 9.5 at the minus 140 to the over, and what's that, plus 120 to the under, I guess.
The three outliers on their schedule as a second place team will be Houston at home, Tampa Bay, and Baltimore on the road.
They are not easy games.
No, they might have a tougher 3 games than Denver.
Yeah.
Who'd you say it was? Tampa Bay, Baltimore on the road, and Houston at home.
Yep.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's
Especially Baltimore on the road. Well, the thing with the Baltimore on the road, they're going against their former defensive coordinator in Jesse Minter at Baltimore.
Okay, so they open up with Arizona and Las Vegas in their first 2 games. So you better get off to a 2-0 start.
Yeah.
True.
Especially with both of those games at home, because the next 4 games before the bye,
they're tough,
and the 3 games after the bye are all tough matchups. That's 7 straight against tough teams.
And Buffalo, Seattle, and Kansas City are all on the road.
Yes, and the Rams and the Ravens are on the road.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
So that means that you would think that the schedule would open up a little bit after that. And there's just a couple of openings. They get the Raiders, of course. They also get the Jets, and they get the Dolphins. But it's a pretty tough schedule, up and down.
Well, on Harbaugh, I trust. 10-6. 11-6 his first year. 11-6 last year. Last year was those issues at left tackle with Slater out in the preseason, and then you had who was the one who came in that then got I forget the name. Who was in there? The guy from what was it, Notre Dame or Wisconsin? One of those places. Greg, what was the offensive line for the Chargers?
The offensive line.
Yeah, who came in there and filled in there last year? Alt. Yeah, Joe Alt.
The rookie
was the one who came in there. Yeah, last year and filled in.
Well, he got hurt.
Left tackle.
He got
hurt also. So they had to play part of the season with effectively the third guy for.
Oh, they were decimated. That offensive line was terrible.
They still ended up going 11-6.
Yes,
that's a great job
they
of coaching.
Also had their top rookie running back out for about 2 months.
Yep.
So without their top running back, with a terrible offensive line, they did not have the depth at tight end that they have now.
Right.
Yeah, that it's amazing that they were able to do what they did last season.
Harbaugh.
And then as soon as they got to the playoffs, they were exposed.
We said in the beginning, these coaches in this division are really tough.
Yeah, they did lose Oweh. They brought him in at the trade deadline, and he was a big impact for them on the second half of the season. But then they let him go. Washington gave him a ridiculous contract, and the Chargers let them. And so they tried to make up for that by using their first-round draft pick on a 25-year-old college kid, Akeem Mesidor, who played for the Miami Hurricanes, almost won a national championship. He was a big reason for that. So hopefully if Mesidor can pick things up right away, he's got a lot of experience. He's an older rookie. That'll be a big boost to their pass rush. And overall, as you can see with their first string depth chart, most of the players from last year are back.
I also like the fact they brought McDaniel in from the former Miami coach as offensive coordinator, which seems to be a position he's better suited for than head coach.
Well, that move might end up being the biggest offensive coordinator move in the entire offseason. McDaniel and what he can do for Jim Harbaugh's offense, what he can do for Justin Herbert, what he can do for the run game, which they really need to have an influx of better quality coaching overall. Again, I agree. I'm not sure McDaniel's head coach material, but Robert Saleh just got a job after being away for 1 year. So what do you think is going to happen to McDaniel? If they have a really good year, he's going to be a head coach again in 2027 somewhere.
Yeah.
So I certainly hope Jim Harbaugh's got like a plan B, like whoever is going to take over for McDaniel if things go well in 2027. But it's a really great hire.
Look, McDaniel didn't have terrible performance. He got the Dolphins in the playoffs one of the years he was there.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. Yeah, that's why there's no way he's not getting a job if Robert Saleh did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's surprising because Saleh's the kind of guy, and you see it occasionally that you pay them almost like a head coach because of how good he is with defenses.
Well, that would
And
be
you want to keep him on
Spagnuolo.
your staff if you can. Yeah, Spagnuolo's another one.
Spagnuolo's been the defensive coordinator, is a great one, but
Yeah.
he didn't do well in the the head coach.
Yeah.
But as a defensive guy, he's still getting big money with the Chiefs, and he wants to be. I think he still wants to be there.
Yeah.
So there was a really good 3 players that they upgraded. Matter of fact, if you take a look at it, they get the rookie, one of the top centers in the draft, who will start most likely at left guard. They added a new center. They added the right guard, comes over from McDaniel's Dolphins team. So as long as they can stay healthy, that offensive line is going to be so dramatically better than last year, along with the new coach in McDaniel. And you got to believe Justin Herbert will have his best season yet.
Yeah.
So it's hard to bet against Harbaugh for too long because he's so good at developing teams.
Yep.
Very difficult situation. He's really good, and they had such an unlucky injury season last year. They could really bounce back. I know Andy likes them to win this division. He may be right.
I thought that what Harbaugh did last year was the second best coaching job in the NFL last year. I still say the 49ers job, what they did with all the injuries, both offense and defense, was one of the best I've ever seen.
Now, here's up your line, Andy. Here's somebody made a comment. The Chargers 4-0 in weeks 1 to 2, looks like 6-0 with the Cards and Raiders this season. Possible survivor picks, and you do all the contests.
Well, you can only pick them once.
Oh, that's right.
However, you bring up a good point, and I talk about this a lot of times about the survivor contest, where you're only allowed to pick a team to win once. You can pick against a team as many times as you like. And so let's say I'll throw Arizona out there. Let's say they end up going 0-17. You can use them in 14 games. The only ones that you can't pick against them are these rematches with division rivals. Okay, so one way to approach Survivor is not necessarily always looking just at who do I want to play on, but also looking at who I want to play against because you're not limited on the number of times that you can pick against a team.
Why aren't they
have someone to pick
excellent advice, Andy? Excellent.
Why aren't you
advice.
allowed to play them against division rivals for a second time?
Because you can only use a team once. So you can use them in 14 games. The games 15, 16, and 17 would be divisional rematches. So you will have already picked against them with that division opponent.
Okay. You can only pick against a team once.
No, you can only pick on a team once.
Pick on a team once.
On the team once.
Yeah, you're unlimited. Because, I mean,
Andy, you should have charged $10,000 for that advice.
I don't know. I don't know, because to me it seemed pretty obvious. Especially when you do handicap, because I'm sure there are times, Jim, that you and Greg and Mark and a lot of us look at certain teams that we are playing against in a game more than we are saying we are playing on a team.
Well, and Arizona is going to be terrible.
For example, the Raiders might be a very bad team. The Cardinals might be a very bad team.
Yeah.
You know, Tennessee Titans may be a very bad team. And you may see them not winning every week,
right,
but covering.
Yes.
So you may, as a point spread bettor, you may say, well, this team covers every week. They're always close. They're trying hard. They're trying to keep their jobs. You know, everybody's trying to learn. And everybody looks at the wins, you know, of who's going to go to the Super Bowl, who's going to win the division. But these 3 teams, they just always cover. So there's some positive there in looking at it from the other side of the fence.
No, that's where I said that in a sense, because I said with the Raiders and the Titans, they both have young teams that are not expected to do all that well. They could have poor results in the early part of the season, and the people who look at the win-loss record as opposed to the point spread record will say, "Oh, look at this team; it's 1-7." Yeah, but they were competitive in 5 of the 6 losses or whatever,
right,
or 5 of the 7 losses, and they're going to be heavily praised as the underdog because again, you have to take a look. What is the percentage of players and what is the percentage of money that the sharp, wise guys play versus the general public? And the reason I ask that question is the wise guys and the heavy bettors look at these things, but that may only be a fraction of what the general public looks at, which is often wins and losses. How could this team be only a 6-point underdog? Well, the 6-point underdog because their losses.
You and I both know that the biggest bettors are dog players.
Yes.
So
yes.
They're always looking.
And that's in almost every sport.
Yes, that's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, if you're going against an NFL team with that philosophy, which is great philosophy, it's the only team really, barring injuries, the only team you could do that against is Arizona, because they're the only team in the NFL that can be absolutely terrible. Yeah. But Las Vegas, Tennessee, they're not going to be terrible.
By the way, Greg, I know
we're not talking. I know we're not talking about Arizona, but what have they? Is there any news yet on Jacoby Brissett?
He's not getting a new contract that he wants, and there's no way Arizona should give him a new contract. He's got no leverage, none.
But the thing about it, when you look around the league, he is so much better than some of the guys that are going to be playing.
Yeah, but you got to take a look at his overall. Even when he wasn't on Arizona, his record's terrible.
Yeah. By the way, Greg, you pointed out in one of the emails that you sent out, you're not exactly enamored of the head coach in Arizona.
No, not Mike LaFleur. Again, you got to remember where he came from with the Jets. Yeah. So again, I think the reason he got the job is very simple, is because he was with Sean McVay the last 3 years. Yeah. That's it. And we all know who was calling the plays.
Talent in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like exactly, and it wasn't like he was the one that was running the offense for Sean McVay. No. Come on. No. So it's just but that's Arizona. Arizona's management has done a really terrible job in their hiring practices. But you know what? There's a lot of Arizona fans that are excited about Mike LaFleur. Why? He's got the LaFleur name. He's a young offensive guy. He's got the look. And hey, we fell for it in New York. And I'm telling you right now, look, I hope the best for him. I don't want to see Arizona lose. I think it's great. I'm used to losing as a Jet fan. I know how it is, Arizona fans. I don't want to put that misery to you guys. I'm just telling it like it is. I don't see it, especially when he just went ahead and hired Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator.
Oh, no.
Who in the world would do something as stupid as that?
The only person he might be better than is Buddy Hackett.
Yeah, pretty much.
Old reference.
A lot of people don't know who Buddy Hackett is.
An old
he
reference.
was a funny man.
But he does sound funny even when you're just saying that Buddy Hackett. All right. Anyway, so that's the Chargers. So let's go through. Do you guys have anything on the line here? What did you say you liked, Andy?
I like slightly to the over 9.5 minus 140, but what's the 10.5 price?
130.
Plus 130.
Plus 130?
Yep.
That's the one I like.
Okay.
Look, Harbaugh's won 11 games in each of his first 2 seasons, and now it's his 3rd season there. His team is a lot more like the kind of team he likes to have. Again, we don't know the situation with the Chiefs, but here's a team that seems poised to continue to show improvement, and I'll be interested to see how the defense comes around with Minter now running the show in Baltimore.
The 9.5 minus 140 is a very steep price.
Yes.
That's what scares you off of it.
That's why I like the 10.5.
It tells you the 10.5 is the better pick. So I'm going to go over 10.5.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't even seem like a risk anyway. I mean, expecting 11 wins. I mean, why not?
Now, keep in mind, we still have to be in that mindset of that 17-game schedule versus the 16-game schedule, where 11-5 is a good record. Well, now you can go 11-6.
How do they open the season, Greg? How do they open the season? What's their schedule?
Home to Arizona.
They get the 2 cream puffs, and then they get the tough. Then they get those tough 7 in a row.
Now Trent Paxton says the Chargers are 4-0 in week 1 and 2. Looks they'll be 6-0 against the Chargers and Raiders. So that's a pretty good bet. I like that.
Well, keep in mind also that tough schedule: Buffalo, Seattle, Denver, Kansas City, bye week, Rams, Houston, Baltimore.
Yeah,
and then they get the easy part. So they
5 of those on the road.
Yeah. So it's a challenging schedule, but that open week in the middle of there, I think, is significant. Compare that to Denver, who does not have that open week.
And here's the thing, too. We've been talking about this now for 8 weeks. When we talk about these first-place teams, they've got first-place schedules for a reason. And I know sometimes it depends on who they're scheduled with outside of the division. But for the most part, we've talked a lot about how some of these really good teams are having really tough schedules. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line to me is look, if you're a good team, you're going to win games. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So
well, keep in mind the first place schedule in the AFC, and again, some of these teams, some of these divisions will play these quarterbacks because you play, your position against where you finished in your division last year. You play 2 games in that same position, and then you play all 4 teams in your division where everybody plays them. So you take a look last year, AFC East, New England first, Buffalo second. I would say Buffalo overall is still the better football team. Second, next division, Pittsburgh last year was the first place team. Both they and Baltimore changed coaches this year. So Baltimore is a second place team for the second place teams to play. And I think Baltimore is better than Pittsburgh. Put Cincinnati there because they were third last year, but between first and second. And in the AFC South, who's better between Jacksonville and Houston? Well, Houston has the pedigree. They won 12 games last year, but finished second to Jacksonville. So Denver has to play whatever 2 teams they don't play in the common division, 2 teams that were not as good as the team that finished second in their division, at least in my opinion, as far as the ranking of those 1 and 2 place teams from last year.
Okay, so let's go through it all here. Let's get rankings, then we'll go over your picks. So who wants to go first with the rankings?
I'll go with I'm going to go with the Chargers. I'm going to go with Kansas City, and it might very well be a tiebreaker versus Denver. I'm still optimistic on Kansas City. I'm bullish on them. I like Denver, but I like the overall coaching of Kansas City and the history. Although again, and that's nothing negative against Denver. I just like Kansas City's culture and history. And then the Raiders, a competitive but maybe not reflected in the record, to finish 4th. Now, you want me to let you guys pick your rankings and then we go over the
Jim,
selections?
What do you got, Jim?
Well, after really looking and analyzing the schedule for Denver, it's a pretty brutal start.
They have a definite.
I like, initially I like Denver to win the division, and I still could stick with that. But they're going to have to make a comeback because the Chargers are going to take off probably better than so out of the box. It's going to be the Chargers, but I'm going to stick with Denver to win the division. But it could be in a dead ass heat with the Chargers. They both end up with the same record. Chiefs and the Raiders 3rd and 4th.
Chiefs. Oh, so you got the Chargers second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm going to go exactly what you have, Jim. Denver, Chargers, Chiefs, Vegas. And again, once we get all through training camp and preseason injuries, things of that nature, we'll make sure to let everybody know early September, the absolute latest, what our final predictions are going to be for everything in the NFL and college football. Let's now go over the picks. So again, starting with Denver, I think we've all got our picks in. Denver, Andy, you're going over 9.5. Jim is going Denver over 9.5, 10.5, 11.5.
Well, I've got 3 of the plays in the division.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'm only on Denver.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do who our plays were.
No, team by team.
Rather than okay.
And then I've got Denver.
I will put one more. I will put one more play and then in on Denver. It's a conditional play. Denver to win the division.
Is it a play or is it a play?
It's a conditional because I'm going to explain. I would play a division. Yeah, Denver to win the division if they start 3-3. So in other words, into the season, I would play Denver to win the division.
So it's not a pick. It's just a prediction, but it's not a pick.
No, it would be a pick in week 7 after their 3-3 start. If they finish 2-4, it's not a pick. If they're 3-3 or worse, I'm sorry, if they start 4-2, it's not a pick. If they're 3-3 or worse, it's a play.
A play on
basically what he's saying, if the Chargers are 5-1 and they're 3-3, Dandy might slip in a bet taking Denver to win it because he's going to get some tremendous odds.
Well, you will get better odds then than you would right now before the season.
Yeah, because you look at the schedule. Yeah, Chargers have some cream puffs and the Broncos have nobody.
So that's why you have to make sure to tune in every week on ProLine TV and check in on Andy week 6.
Either that or write it down and just pay attention to what Denver's record is after 6 weeks. Games
I'll do that for you. No problem, Andy. And then
doing it well as well.
Yeah. And then next up, and I'll go over 9.5, over 10.5 on Denver. Next up, Kansas City. We didn't make any predictions on Kansas City. Does anybody have any?
What's the number?
I would play
10.5.
Yeah, I'm going to play over the 10.5 at plus 115.
Okay.
What's
Do you
under
have anything,
10?
Jim?
What's the price under 10.5?
Minus 140. And under 9.5 is plus 134.
9.5 is plus 134.
That's not a bad one. If you are questionable, very questionable about Kansas City, under 9.5, meaning 9 and 8 cashes the ticket. That's not.
I think you can probably find a better number than 134. But I'll just for the sake of conversation, I'm gonna go under 9.5.
Okay.
I think I can find a better price, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. See,
right.
by the way, part of my reason for the enthusiasm for Kansas City is that coaching staff has been in place for a long time. It'd be different if Kansas City had all that success and then they followed last year and it was a relatively young staff that had only been there for 2 or 3 years.
Chargers, we all got over 10.5, plus 130. Anything new? Or
yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then anything on
wait. The Chargers over
10.5, 130. That's what we have. All
10.5 plus 130.
I'm going to throw
over
in
9.5 is what you were talking about, minus 140.
And I'm also going to take over 11.5.
Okay. Over
11.5. I like the price there.
What'd you say?
Plus
That's plus almost 3 to 1? Oh, plus 240? That's still pretty good.
240.
Yeah, that's solid. Yeah.
And then we wrap up with Las Vegas. Any of you guys have anything with Las Vegas?
I like anything under, what's it, 6.5?
Yeah, under 6.5 is minus 150. Under 5.5 is plus 120.
I'll take the under 5.5.
Under 5.5 plus 1.
I think they'll be a good underdog team, but I don't think they're going to win many.
Yeah, I like that one as well. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm concerned. And what's the price? Plus 130
wins.
Yeah.
I haven't made that as a play, but I'm looking at that one under 5.5.
Okay.
Because again,
all right.
Greg pointed it out, is that of the 5 games that we consider, I think Jim actually pointed it out, maybe it was both of them, that, yeah, they've got 5 winnable games based upon the teams they play, but that assumes that they can win all 5 of those games and get the 5-12, as opposed to what Jim suggested, which is realistic. Let's say they go in those games 3-2 or 2-3 against those quote unquote winnable games. They still need to win an extra 2 or 3 games and they can still stay under the total, but those 2 or 3 games are going to be what would generally be, I think, at least right now, from this perspective, significant upsets against playoff caliber teams.
Yeah, if they don't go, if they go 3-2 in those 5 games, they're going to need to pull off 3 significant upsets
to lose the 5.5.
Who's the worst team in the league?
Arizona. It's not even close.
Do they play the Raiders play Arizona? I think they do.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. I think they do.
NFC West, right? Yeah.
Yep. And they play the Jets and the Dolphins and Cleveland.
And the Jets win total is 5.5. The Dolphins is 4.5. The Cardinals are 4.5. And who are we missing there? The Dolphins,
Cleveland,
the Jets, Cleveland, and
Tennessee, maybe.
Tennessee, yeah. Tennessee is 6.5. I think that's a little too high, but that's certainly a game that the Raiders could easily lose as well. And Cleveland, I think Cleveland was 5.5, and I don't think that's changed since the Garrett trade.
I think that Tennessee is going to show a little bit a positive.
They're going to be better.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they're going to be like the Raiders, lose early, but lose competitively to good teams and make for good underdogs betting wise.
Well, I think they're going to be better though, because they have a softer division. And Cam Ward is going to be, I think Cam Ward is going to be better than Kirk Cousins. Right?
Well, the thing with Tennessee, the unknown is Indianapolis.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions in the league. I mean, there's 10 teams in the league. We just don't know what the heck.
That's why you got to tune in September, because we have a lot going on in August. A lot's going to change our minds depending on injuries and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so do you guys have, here's the division odds once again. Do anybody have a division play?
Well, I told you about Denver, the conditional one. Nothing before the season.
Anything for you, Jim?
I don't think it's a good enough price. I'm not going to bet it. No.
Okay. And Super Bowl. Any Super Bowl plays in this division?
How about conference first?
What's the Chargers at both of those?
Oh, this stupid thing. Conferences. Here we go. Chiefs are almost 8-1. Chargers are almost 8-1.
Is this conference?
Denver's 10-1, and you don't want the Raiders. This is for the AFC. AFC.
What's the odds in the AFC West?
The what?
The odds to win the division.
We just did that.
You did the conference.
No,
This is it. AFC conference right here.
Oh, I'm saying, what are the AFC West, the division?
We just did that.
What are they?
You weren't paying attention for the last 5 minutes?
There's a difference between the but I'm saying, what were the odds?
The odds were Kansas City. I have it right here. I don't have to go back.
Kansas City was favored. Denver was plus
Kansas City is plus 160. Denver is plus 225. And the Chargers are plus 190 or something like that.
Plus 180.
Plus 180.
Okay.
I think it's,
I will play before the season starts because I like this team. I'll play the Chargers at plus 180.
All right. Let's just.
And then if the Broncos start 3-3 or worse, I'll probably play the Broncos because they'll be getting a much better number, a third of the way through the season.
Oh, I definitely like that play. Yeah.
All right. So it's Chargers are plus 190.
Yeah.
Okay. 190 Chargers division. Let's go back to AFC. All right. So what do you like in the AFC? Any of these three teams?
No, not until
Chiefs,
Herbert
Chargers,
Cruzy
Denver
won a playoff game.
To win the AFC.
Yeah, no. I don't
and
like
most of these are double if you wanted to pick the Super Bowl. Chiefs are 16-1, Chargers are 17-1, and Denver's 20-1.
Yeah, put the Chargers Super Bowl for me.
17-1?
17-1, yeah.
Okay.
That'll be a play because I'll be playing the Chargers in some of those exactas.
I think Denver's a good play at 20-1 myself.
Am I looking at the wrong thing? I'm looking at Denver plus 1025.
That's AFC.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Did you want to do any? If you don't want to do AFC, I'll move over to the Super Bowl.
Go ahead. Go to the Super Bowl.
Okay. You've got Chiefs 16, Chargers 17, and Denver 20.
Well, I'm not necessarily going to play it, but I would suggest that if you like, Indianapolis is the questionable team in the AFC South. Kansas City is the questionable team, or the team with all the questions in the AFC West. If you think that Kansas City is going to look like the old Kansas City before, then 16-1 to win the Super Bowl is probably the cheapest you've gotten them in the last 8 or 9 years. So it all depends upon, what you think of Kansas City. Can you play them at you can play them at 16-1. If they start 4-0, you're not going to see that 16-1. So it depends what you think about Kansas City. And let me see what their early season schedule. I think we talked about it. Denver, Indianapolis, both at home, and then at Miami and at Las Vegas. Kansas City could be 4-0. So you may not get better than 16-1 that you can get right now.
I don't like any of the prices.
Okay. I'm going to show everybody because next week, hopefully, Mark Lawrence will be back. So this is the magazine I just got in the mail. This is the playbook.
I got mine too. Yeah.
So we all have this, and there's a link in the description of this video where you can go to the website, purchase the playbook guide. This is the best handicapping guide for the NFL and college football. You have 1 page each for the college football teams, and you have 2 for all 32 NFL teams. And then You have a whole bunch of other really great
articles
information
and other charts, coaches' records, and things like that, revenge, etc. If you're an old guy like me, you can get the physical edition. If you're like a Gen Z and you like to do things on tablets and computers, you can get a PDF copy. I like the hard copy.
What's this old guy crap?
I'm talking about me. I didn't mention you.
No, yeah, but when you say that,
like,
I mean, you're like 30 years younger than me.
Oh, well, okay, relative to Greg. No, wait, 30 years younger. I'm 10 or
You'll
11
take
years
it.
younger.
You'll take it, Andy.
But yeah,
Okay.
no, it's okay. I'm fine with that. But no, what I'm saying is that there are a lot of us who do prefer the physical thing because we're used to it. We grew up with it. You know, we were in our 50s or 60s when the internet came along with all the mass availability of things that used to be physical only. So we prefer, I actually like getting a couple of copies of Playbook because I keep one in the car all the time in case I'm out somewhere and I say, oh, what's the answer? I can get it. And of course, the one that I use at home and mark up another. So I actually use 3 copies.
Andy, are you ready for Tuesday? We're going to get back in action for
yeah. What time are we going to do it? 10 a.m. or do you want to do it earlier or do week by week basis?
Greg, is good 10 o'clock.
It's your show. I mean, I'm not on, so whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, Andy, you and I 10 o'clock.
Sounds good. And if you want to make any adjustments, you can let me know in the morning.
Okay.
I'm generally pretty flexible. The only time I can't do it on Tuesday mornings would be like between 9:15 and 9:45. So 10 o'clock works perfect.
10 o'clock's okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the contest. You have some updates, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean,
well, I put something on my website where I finally was able to get everything done, where it really goes into a lot of depth about.
Tell everybody what the website is. I see it on the thing. Tell them.
Yeah, thelogicalapproach.com, and I've got, of course, newsletters and things. Right on the home page, there's a link for that information. If people want to see sample copies of last year, whatever. But as far as the contests go, I do it because I do proxying, but it also explains the contest for people who not be familiar. And I've got a description with the highlights for the 3 Circa contests: Circa Millions, which is the pick 5, and the Circa Survivor and Circa Grandissimo, which are the Survivor contests. One is a $1,000 entry fee. That's a Circa Survivor. Circa Grandissimo is the $100,000 entry fee. And so I know a lot of our listeners and viewers have done well enough to consider that one. But nonetheless, and the 4 Westgate contests, which is the granddaddy, the Super contest, which is the pick 5 games a week. Then they have the Super Contest Gold, which is the same contest, except it's a winner take only with a $5,000 entry fee. The regular contest is $1,500. They introduced, did Westgate, a Super Contest Survivor last year, which is similar in concept to the Circa Survivor, other than the fact that the entry fee is different. It's a $5,000 entry fee versus the regular Survivor, which is the $1,000 entry fee. And the major difference is, in the Circa Survivor, you've got 2 weeks that are split up. You've got 2 picks you have to make in Thanksgiving week, 2 picks you have to make in Christmas week. You don't have that in the Westgate Survivor. That just goes 1 pick each week for the 18 weeks of the season. And then this one has attracted a lot of interest. In fact, we didn't know what the interest would be last year. It was the first year that they had a college football contest. It runs 13 weeks from the week before Labor Day through Thanksgiving weekend. $500 entry fee. You make 7 picks a week. Anyway, so I've got details, the highlights on those, and also on that same page, links to the official rules. So if there's anything that you have questions about that I've written in the highlights, or if you have other questions that I didn't deal with in the highlights, are almost certainly in the official rules.
So thelogicalapproach.com is a great place to get all this information from Andy.
I thought about calling it theological approach because we could always use some divine inspiration, but I left out the O.
And we have links in the description of this video where you can check all that out. And again, don't forget on Tuesday, I'm sure you guys are also going to talk about with the unofficial first half of the season and baseball is over.
Yeah.
So now they're all looking at the second half, which starts tonight. And then you also have, I'm sure, you might at some point want to be talking about the teams that you like in the second half, World Series, things of that nature, unless it's all going to be Dodgers. And then the World Cup. When is the final? Is that Sunday?
Sunday at noon, I think, our time.
The World Cup is about half a century behind college basketball. In the NCAA tournament, they used to have a third place game between the 2 teams that lost the semifinals. They did away with that in 1983. World Cup still has a third place game.
Yeah.
That'll be on Saturday
In
a different city than the final.
And not to ignore them, and I know Greg likes to ignore them. The WNBA is booming. That is a really growing sport. It really is.
Yeah.
It's whether you like it or not, they're good. And
the only negative is they play a lot of games during the early part of the day.
Well,
in other words, they don't play as many night games, where the NBA basically plays all night games. And there are games that start at like 1 PM Eastern time in the NBA.
The only negative is
they're fighting for TV time. It's probably hard to get it.
The only negative is they keep crippling their star player. That's the only negative.
Physically crippling.
Yeah, physically crippling their star player.
Caitlin Clark.
I'm never going to understand that. I don't get it.
Why is everybody so resentful of her? Because she's the one responsible for the increase in salaries, etc., that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Not that there haven't been great players earlier, but she just came to prominence at the right time.
There's not a logical person on earth that can explain what the hell goes on with that. But it is a good league. There are great players in the league besides Caitlin, and I don't understand the treatment. I do not like the commissioner of that league. I think she's a bonehead. That's just my opinion, personal opinion.
I will refer to you and I as experienced guys rather than age-related. We're experienced. We remember when college basketball for women really started off really started to gain at least notoriety in the mid to late 1980s. Tennessee, I think Louisiana Tech was up there. It was a very difficult game to watch back then. Right now, that game is, some people could argue it's better to watch than the NBA with all what goes on in the NBA. But the fundamentals, the fluidity, I think that's the right word, the fluidity of the women's game has increased 100-fold in the last 35 years or so.
I agree.
Very watchable.
And I think the reason is, first of all, they're not making the kind of money that the men make, so they need to keep their jobs and work hard, play hard. The other thing is their fundamentals are incredibly good, where the men's are not. But granted, the men are better basketball players. They're bigger, stronger, faster, and everything else.
Women are fundamental. The men are flashy, and they both have audiences.
Right. Anyway, that's another day.
So we'll
Andy, you and I 10 o'clock on Tuesday,
which is 1 Eastern.
We'll touch base in the morning and confirm it, and get set.
So the Jim Feist Show returns every Tuesday at 1
Andy,
Eastern.
The other thing is we got to get you out to the studio when we're doing it in the restaurant.
Okay. I could say probably sometime in August.
Okay.
You guys are returning to Dom DeMarco's in mid-August?
Okay. Then maybe September, October.
Okay.
When do you guys return to Dom DeMarco's?
The end, right the week of the pros. That's the week. I don't know what
the first week of the regular season.
Yes.
So
that would be the 9th. That would actually be the Wednesday that kicks off the season
in September
with Seattle hosting New England.
Okay. That's
okay.
It.
So still got to go to September. All right. So anyway, we will see everybody on the Our Lads Football Network back on Monday. We have more interviews, college football, NFL interviews. Looking forward to that. We just did Ohio State on Thursday. We'll have Alabama, Ole Miss coming up real soon. I'm doing my first Army interview coming up I believe it's Tuesday night. I can't wait for that. So check that out. Also the Patriots on Monday. Meanwhile, I will be back on Proline TV on Saturday night for NASCAR coverage after qualifying and practice I believe they're at North Wilkesboro this week. So that's more on Proline TV. And then we'll see everybody on Tuesday on Proline TV for the Jim Feist handicapping show. Guys, appreciate it. This was a great 8 weeks. And I'm sure we'll have you on again with this kind of partnership with our lads at some point as we get closer to the start of the regular season. And
I will just mention that the next time we are together, I'm going to have a really serious talk with the operator. I'm going to be looking in the mirror and make sure that I remember the fundamentals of signing in.
Okay. That would be great. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Jim.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Greg.